Without further ado, let's have the first question, in which regard I would like to invite Mr. Jonathan Silverman to kick off. So, Jonathan, if you let Holly bring your question. Or, sorry, the microphone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With a banking system clearly showing signs of strain and a perhaps overheated property market in London, is it prudent for those with cash to consider either direct or indirect investment into commodities?
Right, lovely question. Thank you, Jonathan. Now, Andrew, maybe I could ask you to firstly comment whether you agree with the statement that the banking system is clearly still showing signs of strain before we launch on to the other bits about investing in commodities.
So I think we're in a bit of a different position to 2008. Well, I really hope so. Is the banking system showing as much strain? It's a bit hard because I can only talk from HSBC's point of view. Strain in the sense that we're being more regulated than we were. Strain on overheating property prices on real estate. We have caps now that we're allowed to lend on real estate, so that can cause the perception of a strain, but actually it's the way the regulations sort of work to us. As far as cash holding in HSBC, we've never held so much cash. My business, which I run out at Canary Wharf, the amount of cash we're holding has gone up by about 27% in the last 2 years.
You're the good guys.
But actually, and I go to the other one, strain on the banks, the other banks, no one's actually lost any money investing, unless you bought the shares pre-2008. No one's lost any money investing in or putting their savings into a bank. 2 years ago, I don't know what the gold price was, but I know it was a darn sight higher than it is now. So I would suggest you probably took a bit of a hard crunch over the last 2 years, so it might be a good time to buy. I'm not an expert in that side, but
no, we'll get that from our expert at the other end of the table in a moment. But is it right to say banks have rebuilt their balance sheets? I suppose
they're in the process of rebuilding the balance sheet. I think Co-ops is very visible at the moment, but RBS is stronger. Lloyds. It's quite interesting. Would you buy bank shares, Lloyds, RBS, because at some point they're going to come out of it and be privatised? You know, so we need a strong banking system. We need the competition. So I think the banks are in a far stronger position than they were. We're getting lots of pressure from the politicians to lend. Actually, a lot of government initiatives without what we're doing, actually, I think pretty positive as well. I think there's a real demand on lending, lack of demand on lending.
Right, thank you, Andrew. So Mike, can I ask you to comment on the investment aspect of this question?
Yeah, so I think firstly, we would never advocate you buying a single asset class. That's even riskier than leaving the money in the bank, I think, even going back to 2008. And to prove the point, I've got the figures only because I saw the question this morning, I have to say. But nevertheless, in September 2011, gold was floating at a significantly higher price than it is at the moment. In fact, since September 2011, it's down 29%. If you had bought the American stock market, you'd be 46% up. And I think that kind of illustrates our approach to management of risk, particularly the type of risk you're talking about, because you're talking about default risk, I think, here, rather than investment risk, which is a completely different kettle of fish. And right from the word go, our philosophy was that you spread it thin and wide, so you put your money in lots of different assets in lots of different parts of the world. And then if one went wrong, you haven't exposed all your wealth to that problem. And I think we still carry that today. For what it's worth, I think the banking system is much healthier than it was, but there is no doubt about it, clients are still very cautious about which banks they use for their cash deposits. And I think the other spin-off of where we are today is I have never known a desire by so many low-risk clients to want to take risk. And in that context, I think QE has worked. It's done exactly what it set out to do, because clients are having to take risks to seek yield that simply isn't available in the bank.